Illustrator can kind of serve two different needs, especially for a designer. You can, of course, use Illustrator to create artwork, and at the same time, you can use it to lay out certain designs. Now, we've been using both of those methods here for web design, and when it comes to setting text, there are also two different ways to set type inside of Illustrator. We have something called point text, and then we have something called area text. And while at the end of the day, you do get text on your artboard, you'll find that choosing between these two methods of setting type inside of Illustrator can determine how you can treat that type. Now, in this movie specifically, we're going to deal with point type. So let's see how that works. I'm going to start by creating a new web document here. Click OK, just take the regular default settings here. I'm going to switch to my type tool, and I'm simply just going to move my cursor on the artboard and just click once and release the mouse. That gives me a blinking cursor now on my screen, and now I can type in some words. Maybe I want this to be the headline of my page. I want to type in, let's say, what our mission statement is. So I'll type in mission, M-I-S-S-I-O-N. And I'm going to switch now to my arrow tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this text. Command spacebar will give me the zoom tool here. That's Control spacebar on Windows. And just to make things a little bit easier to see here, I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to choose to hide the bounding box. Now, the reason why this is called point text is because the actual type object is defined by a single anchor point, which is where I first clicked with the type tool on the artboard. And we can see that anchor point right here. In fact, if I toggle into outline mode, so Command Y or Control Y, I can also see over here there's this one anchor point that's right here, this little X, that defines the type object. I'm going to hit Command Y again to go back into preview mode. And the important thing to realize here is that this type object will always align itself to this anchor point right here. So for example, right now, if I look over here at the paragraph settings, it's right now set to align left. If I choose to align this to the center, you can see that the anchor point itself did not move, but the text moved now to be centered over that anchor point. And likewise, if I choose to align right, I can see that again, the anchor point is staying in the same place. So now I can see that the text is aligned right, flush right over here by the anchor point. Let me go back over here to align left. And we'll talk about another characteristic of point type inside of Illustrator. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit over here. If I were to take my type tool and click now back inside of this type object, I can now start to add more text, for example. And I can actually keep on typing. And as I type and type, you can see that it doesn't break into a second line. There's no boundary when it comes to working with point type. It's simply a type object, and my type will go on and on and on. The only way I can get now a second line is if I physically hit the return key on my keyboard, and that brings me to the next line over here as well. But I'm just going to hit the shift key and then type the up arrow to kind of select upwards, and now shift left arrow to select this type and then just delete it. So now I'm back to my original text here of mission. But I wanted to show you that there's no boundary. There's nothing really that contains this text. It's simply an anchor point that now has some text inside of it, and that text is kind of free. The best use for using point type inside of Illustrator is for setting type that is going to be exported as some kind of a graphic. So if you don't really care right now about structure, this is going to be a logo. It's going to be some kind of a customized headline that you'll export as an image if you want to maybe have this very specific typeface. If you want to have something that appears as a graphic, the point type object is a much more design-friendly type of object. For example, I'm going to click and drag while holding down the Option key over here to create a copy of this. And you can see that I can very easily move text around if I wanted to create some kind of logo type or some other kind of interesting type treatment. It really acts almost as if it were a piece of art, but I'm really working with text. However, if I'm thinking about something more along the lines of structure, like a page, for example, and I want the text to flow, well, then I would start to think about using area text, which is what we'll cover in the next movie.